Entrepreidneur Sessions, the podcast.
Hey, hi, welcome to another edition of Entrepreneur Sessions. This is a special segment we do that's called One-on-One, where we talk to really cool entrepreneurs from all different spaces about all different kind of topics. So I'm your host, Jennifer. It's Mario right here. And today we are very excited because we have a very special guest. And she's a speaker, she's a mentor, she works in commercial real estate, and she is somebody who aims to shift mindsets and help people build a legacy of wealth. So without further ado, let's welcome Dr. Yolanda.
Hey.
Thank you guys. So good to be here.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. So we're going to have Mario jump off the question.
So before we get started, I have an icebreaker question. So if you had to delete all but 3 apps on your smartphone, which one would it be?
Which ones would I keep?
Which one would you keep?
Well, I'm going to put Facebook and Instagram together. I count that as one, and that's because that's my social media handle. That's how I communicate. That's how I stay connected. And then the other one that I would keep is one called Headspace. And the reason I would keep that one is because I use that one for meditation, and it taught me how to meditate so that I could stay grounded for my business. And then I guess the last one that I would keep would be, it's one called Quotes Creator. And it's a small creative app, but there are times where rather than being business strategy oriented, I want to be creative, and it gives me a quick fix in the background and the presentation as well as working with words.
Oh, I love that. What was the name of that one again?
Quotes Creator.
Creator. I like that. Okay.
I love that.
Meditation by Quotes Creator.
I know. I love it. So let's jump into it. Like, how did you get your start as an entrepreneur?
So I actually started as an entrepreneur in 1996. And at that time, I was interested in doing real estate. So it's always been a side hustle, something that I've done on a part-time basis. But then in 2018, I became a full-time entrepreneur. And that came about as a way to honor my big mama, who died in 2017 unexpectedly. And she was a trailblazer. The stories that came out of her purchasing real estate before Blacks were supposed to, before a woman without a man was supposed to, the way she was just authentic to who she was. And my fear when she died was that I would lose her fingerprint on my life. I knew at some point I would lose, or I may forget her smell, or may not quite remember the sound of her laughter, but I didn't want to look back and not be able to see the impact she had on me. And so in 2017, she died in July. I went on a search to find a way to honor her so that I could see it. And that led me to, in 2018, becoming a full-time entrepreneur. And I wouldn't change it. Wouldn't go back if my life depended on it.
That's nice. Why do you say you wouldn't go back?
Because I didn't realize how much I was putting myself in a box, trying to fit the mold of the career path that I had decided or felt was mine. I earned my PhD in 2010 with all intents and purposes of being a vice president or president of a college and retiring at that level. And so in order to make that work as a Black woman in academia, there's a look, there's a feel, there's some things you say, there's some things you don't say. And I didn't realize until I quit and I started doing things for myself of how much of me I had lost and trying to fit the mold and get ahead. And so although shifting the mindset and shifting the household finances to support the reality of being an entrepreneur has been a challenge for me and my hubby. It's one where I can be more authentically me. It's one where I have the freedom to show up for my family. Like today, I'm at my mom's because my little cousin, Maya, who's been with my mom since she was a baby, she needed some additional support. And I can do that. And I can adjust my schedule to take care of the people who are important to me.
Cool. And it's safe to say that your mom is what attracted you to commercial real estate?
Say that part again, please.
Is it safe to say that your mom is who attracted you to commercial real estate? Or is it some
grandma?
It was actually more so my love of numbers. So when I left academia, one of the things that I realized, or in academia, one of the things that I did, my real wheelhouse, was making database decisions. When I was in high school, I graduated from Dunbar and stopped 6. My math teacher, Mr. Hudson, he challenged me to do a game and then to come up with a function to explain what move you made in the game. As a sophomore in high school, I didn't even know that was possible. And so the thought that math can explain so much stuck with me through high school and through my undergraduate career and also in my doctorate. And so I've always been interested in numbers. With commercial real estate, it combined looking at numbers and economic development for my community. When I was looking at education, one of the reasons I was really interested in education is because I saw it as the answer for what plagued my community. I could see where generations could change. I could see where people can set something new for their families, their communities, but that just wasn't happening. And so then when I shifted to become a full-time entrepreneur, I began to search, well, where is this? Is it a matter of supporting underestimated founders? Is it a matter of residential real estate investing? And I landed on commercial real estate because of the economic development in our communities and what's been lacking and what's needed.
Nice. So does that have something to do with your Instagram handle name, Black Wall Street?
Most definitely. One of the things, and sometimes people don't get it. So Black Wall Street, one of the things that was great about Black Wall Street was that despite the internal or despite the external regulations, practices, whether they were fair, whether they were justice or not, they thrived. They developed a community, and the community and the customers, they were Black, they were white, they served all, they were connected, but they thrived. And there's a way for us to take the strengths, to take the lessons from that and develop economic ecosystems and develop businesses where our communities can thrive and not just survive, where we can reach another level despite what's going on in America. And so Black Wall Street DFW is just a reminder, one, that it's possible, of the possibilities, and to stay connected and to dig into our history so we know and we can figure out how to do that now. And with the internet, we definitely should be able to stay connected and support our businesses.
Definitely.
So how has your background in the education space impacted your experience as an entrepreneur?
Some good and some bad, meaning that in academia, like there's some research I did in 2010 that when I did the research, it was already old. It wasn't new, it's that it was a new twist. And some of the things I found out in 2010 still haven't been implemented. So in academia, things move slow. You can or in the educational circle at least, you can be a little more deliberate, a little more analytical, get a little more buy-in. Trying to do that as an entrepreneur, you'll miss out on some money. And I've had that happen to me a couple of times because I got to being, or to focusing on the analytics of it and not meeting the need of the customer and addressing the pain point that was in front of me. And doing it, not perfect, but just doing what needs to be done. What it has helped me with is because I did earn a PhD, one of my superpowers is I may not know it now, but I can understand it. In earning my PhD, I created theoretical frameworks and I tested and validated models. And so I may not know it now because I haven't been exposed to it. But if I can get access to the data and I can do the research, I can understand it and I can explain it because I did get my PhD in education. I can explain it so that my clients understand it and can use it to better their businesses.
Man, so was there a situation that caused you to pivot? When you were realizing that, if you invest a lot of time in a certain thing that you weren't going to make any money, or did you just it was a light bulb that turned on and said, hey,
I had a little help with that with my hubby. We've been married 20 years in April. And one of his questions, or as we were considering me becoming a full-time entrepreneur, was the risk that was involved, how we were going to mitigate the risk. Because at that time, we had been a two-income family for 18 years. Mm-hmm. And so we had built a lifestyle. We had built bills related to that. And so when I pivoted, and I was still operating on the same mindset and doing the same practices and sharing with him what was going on, and things that I had counted on were not happening. He'd ask a very direct question. It was like, okay, so you said such and such and such and such. That's not happening. What are you going to do? And so had to figure it out and sit back and do a reflection. One of the things I've done since probably December of 2019 is be very intentional about my mindset. And our mindset is just our habitual thoughts, right? And sometimes you don't realize you're sabotaging yourself because you haven't sat down and really dug up those things that you've been doing automatically. So because I've had that exposure and digging it up, now it happens quicker and on a more regular basis than it did when I first started. One of the things that happened when I first got started as an entrepreneur is I realized that when I was a W-2 employee, if the rest of my life was crazy, I could choose what project to work on at work, and I could check out or back from relationships as was needed. I can't do that as an entrepreneur. I have to figure out how to manage those things so that they don't overlap or overburden. You have to figure out how to relax, rejuvenate, set boundaries, and not be rude in them, but keep them so that I can be successful and show up as the best version of me.
I love that. And that actually translates to the next question that I have is, what does your average day look like? There's been a lot of people that we've interviewed, and they say, well, work is kind of like their average day, or they've been able to find a balance between, work life and their personal life. So what is your average day looking like?
So, and I don't know if average, since probably August, we've been doing a remodel of my mom's shower. So average, if we just looked at August, was totally different from starting probably when COVID-19 started. I started recording my daily habits so people could see. And so if anybody goes to my website or my Instagram page, you'll see I had mindful mornings for the first part of COVID-19, and then I had mindful nightfalls. So my day starts with a reflection on what I'm grateful for. And I do an adaptation of the Savers, which was created by Hal Elrod, where S is silence, A is appreciation, visualization, exercise, reading, scribe or writing. So I recorded my appreciations, I recorded my affirmations, and then offline I do my exercise and my reading. And I do that every morning, Monday through Saturday. And then at the end of the day, I had mindful nightfalls. And what I do at mindful nightfalls was kind of do a check-in. Well, how did I do today? And then also review my to-do list that I have for the next day, do a brain dump to get everything out of my mind so that I can rest well. And then to do something that I enjoyed that would just kind of bring me down from the highs or up from the lows of the day. In the day itself, I'm a person, I like to work on by myself in the morning. So my mornings were usually projects where I could delve into some research or read or really focus on a project that may be thought heavy. And then my afternoons were those times where I set up meetings, or whether it be one-on-one or group meetings or networking events. During COVID, it was mostly Zoom. But though that would be my ideal day, because that's the rhythm that works for me. And on a great day, I get in a naps during lunchtime.
Yeah.
That napping.
I love it.
Right.
I love it. I was going to say, what challenges have you experienced since becoming an entrepreneur? I know you kind of got into that a little bit. But I think instead of asking you that, I want to more so focus on something that you said earlier that I think was really important. And I think we just talked about this in another episode where people always feel that being an entrepreneur is not stable or steady, and that a 9-to-5 is more steady. But I think, since we've been in this COVID environment, we kind of understand that the definition of steady has really changed. And I think one thing that really resonated so far that you said is that really being able to be your authentic self in your business versus being in maybe a role that comes with a lot of clout and prestige, but you don't feel like you're authentically or you're tapping into your biggest gift. So I really appreciated you saying that. And I guess I could still ask you, what are some challenges that you've experienced as an entrepreneur outside of things we've already talked about?
So, and I'll probably hit a couple of things, a couple of the ideas that you mentioned. One is still in being authentic, because even though you have a realization of who you are and you have a realization of how you should walk this out, actually doing the work to get to that point is a different story. So there's many of us, and I'm a Christian, so there's many of us who the pastor on Sunday will say how we should do, how we should behave, and then nothing happens. We may have found a personal conviction of that, but nothing happens. And then maybe 3 months down the road, you go, yeah, I was supposed to work on that. And so one of the things that I've had to do as an entrepreneur is make sure that when I have an aha moment, if I can't work on it because of whatever, it's noted and it's a decision. Not that I forgot. It's a choice that this is not a priority right now for me to work on. Instead, I need to work on being more accountable. I need to work on being more consistent. But to make sure that I'm present enough in the moment to know that this is a deliberate choice and not a fallback or automatic. So I've had to work on that. I've also had to work on just those relationships where, people get used to you showing up a certain way. And just because you have a new realization of who you are doesn't mean that everybody is going to be accepting or ready for that. And you have to have those conversations and be willing to have those difficult conversations. One of the things that, and this may seem trivial to some, but one of the things that happened when I became a full-time entrepreneur is I cut my hair. I mean, this side, all of it, most of it's this short. I had a full afro. My goal at the time was to block the person behind me in church so that they tapped me on the shoulder and said, excuse me, I can't see the pastor. And so I had a full head of hair. So when I cut it, in order to because for me, it represented a boldness. It represented an edge that I wanted to be on display in my physical presentation and how I physically showed up. There was conversations with my grandma, who was a minister, my paternal grandmother, who was a minister before women were supposed to be. There were conversations with my nieces about my hair choices. But those kind of things and being open to who I am also means that my circle has to change, and I have to give them room for that change. And in your intimate relationships, be it if you're, at the time when I became a full-time entrepreneur, we were foster parents as well. And so those relationships changed. They were already dealing with trauma. Now they're dealing with the upheaval that comes as it relates to me and my hubby trying to adjust to me being now a full-time entrepreneur, and what are the roles and the relationships and responsibilities in the house. And so just giving people room to adjust and being willing to have those conversations. And then if the other person is not willing, being okay with that and going, okay, I'm still going to be who I'm supposed to be. And when you're ready, we'll have a conversation, but not falling back into habits just because it's comfortable or it's easy. And I said a lot, so.
No, that's good.
No, that's good. That was really good. We listened.
Dropping some knowledge. Cool. So what are some, and you mentioned a couple possibly, but what are some risks that you have taken in your career that has pretty much paid off?
And So one of the things that I did when one of the things with my transition, when I became a full-time entrepreneur, is my mentor in real estate investment at the time. She's a realtor, but she was also a real estate investor, and she had lost her assistant. And we were having a conversation about the position, and I was in my head, my thoughts were, well, okay, which one of my cousins have recently graduated, can't find a job? And she asked me, she said, Yolanda, have you ever considered leaving higher education? And at that time I hadn't, but that conversation happened maybe a week, 2 weeks after my sister and I had a conversation. My sister is also an educator, and she was so fed up. She said, if I could pull my retirement and work at McDonald's, I would do that today. And so with those two conversations, I realized that I was willing to pull my retirement from TRS, and I started in TRS early. So I was still grandfathered in the rule of 80. I think now they may be on the rule of 90, where if I had continued on, I could have retired, in my 50s. I'm in my mid 40s now. I could have retired in my 50s and been comfortable because I had positions that were close to 6 figures. But I pulled it with the idea of this will fund us at the beginning until I can get, until I could have solid foundation. It will fund us so that my hubby felt more comfortable with the risk. And then I put some of it in a self-directed IRA so that I have more control over it. Now with the self-directed IRA, the risk was making purchases. So I purchased a condo, 1-bedroom condo, and we fixed it up. We're holding it. We didn't flip it, but that was a risk as well, because you go to the sales pitch, but there weren't enough people who I was connected to who had the experience. And so you're kind of blazing the trail and figuring it out. In my head, the risk was that I pull my solid retirement, put it in a self-directed IRA, where now, yes, I have control, but because I don't have experience, it's also a higher risk. It's worked out for us in that the area where I purchased the self-directed IRA is steps away from Highland Park, meaning, and when I say steps, I mean you can literally walk less than a block and it's there. Where it's nestled at, the property values are significantly different though. So like Highland Park, it may be $400,000 and $500,000 properties. Mine at the moment is sitting at, I believe it's $105,000, but that's still an increase from what it was when I bought it. And so it's working out, even though it's been a challenge. And when I made the purchase, the property has sat so long, it wasn't a clear cut of this is a good purchase. It was one of those where it sat long for a reason. You don't know why, because you don't have enough experience in this area. Are you going to purchase it and take the chance? Or are you going to let it sit and say, since it wasn't for them, it's not for me? And I purchased it and took the chance.
It worked out. Sounds like
yes.
That's great.
Thank God.
Yeah.
I love it. So, Mario, did you have a question that you wanted to ask about?
No. Well, that was a question that I had in real estate. I mean, okay, so I do have a question. So with your experience in real estate, and I know you've seen the ups and downs. You also teach it, and along with being an entrepreneur, are you bringing people in to where you mentor them, or?
I do bring people in to mentor them. It seems most people are interested with my experience with short-term rentals. One of the things I've learned as an entrepreneur is address the pain points that's in front of you as opposed to the ones that I may be passionate about. It seems most of the people that are reaching out for mentorship, my experience with short-term rentals, my granny died in July of 2017. I was on a mission to honor her, but I also come from a long line of ministers and the scripture that's in my head a lot of the times is that to be a borrower is to be a slave to the lender. So then the question becomes, how do I invest in real estate without going in debt? So in July 2017, she passed. By October 31st or 25th, of 2017, I had a lease on my first real estate and property, and it was a lease because I had convinced the landlord to let me run it as a vacation rental on Airbnb, HomeAway, and Booking.com. The property was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, less than a mile away from the cultural district in Fort Worth. And I ran that one maybe for a little over a year, maybe a year and a half, not quite 2 years. And so I've worked with a number of investors to coach them through how to identify a property, the scripts, and how to start the conversation with the landlord about those kind of opportunities. And since COVID-19, how to pivot if you have leases on Airbnb, B&B properties, because if you have a lease, the landlord is basically depending on you as their tenant. You don't get a buy just because nobody's in it. So then just how to pivot. Where are some other opportunities that you may have not noticed because you were focused on running it as a vacation rental for 2 to 3 days? So like for the condo that I'm in, that I purchased with my self-directed IRA, HOA says we can't do vacation rentals, says it has to be at least 30 days, but the options there are even corporate housing if people are traveling for work. If they're not, it's close enough to Parkland where the option becomes traveling nurses or medical professionals or essential workers. And so walking through people the other options, because in all times, but particularly during COVID-19, the key is to sit back and evaluate those opportunities on the fringes, not trying to be where the masses are at and doing what everybody else is doing. The opportunity for income, the opportunity for significant impact are on the fringes of what everybody else is doing.
Wow. Yeah, I'm surprised the HOA didn't become more lenient and just say, well, because of the situation, you could do just regular Airbnb. That, they're still kind of strict.
They were kind of strict. And then initially, when I purchased the property, one of the things I found out is that the HOA management company and the board, their goal had been to sell the property. So there were lots of development in the area. Right. And so they weren't doing all that they could do to keep the property up, to monitor tenants or landlords, to make sure HOA fees and everything was being paid, because their goal was to sell the property. And so now it's shifted, I think partly because nobody was really interested. But because it's shifted, that's why the property value is now going up. And since they have shifted, they are being more diligent about making sure, okay, these are the rules in the HOA bylaws. This is what we need our owners to abide by. And if you don't abide by them, they're quick. Where, it won't take 30 days before you'll get at least a notification of, here's a warning of what's going on. Yeah.
So what are some strategies that small business owners can implement right now to help take their business to the next level?
Recently, I think I started July 11th. I was reading a book called Side Hustle by Chris. His last name starts with a G. It's French, and I will not try to pronounce it. But the tagline is From Idea to Income in 27 Days. And so he advises you how to take one idea from idea to income. My goal was to take 10, because I figured if he wrote a book about one, most people could do one, and I like to be outside of the box. But in that book, one of the things that he mentioned that has shifted some of the ways I've done business and advised my entrepreneurs is looking at the pain points of the people around you, not necessarily in that target market where you're trying to get, or your ideal client. Because sometimes as entrepreneurs, in order to bootstrap our business, you just need some income. So there may be an opportunity for you to generate income, generate revenue, because there's a pain point, or because of where you're situated or your knowledge, it can be a quick solution, and it won't be, a multi-dollar business. It may not even be your business services for the rest of the year, but it can generate enough revenue to help you with what you're trying to do now. So I would say my advice would be just to be watchful and be aware of not just the goals of where you're headed, but the current pain points of the people you're already connected to that already trust you, because there could be some opportunities for revenues that would help you with your big vision.
And I've heard also in real estate, it's about trying to utilize other people's money versus using your own money. So is that true?
Yes. Oh, and that's true. One of the things I did during COVID-19 is I help a group of realtors, a group of real estate professionals. It's realtors and inspectors. We started an investment group. And so one of the reasons we started it is so that we could pool our network, pool our money, pool our just the people we come in contact with, so we can identify properties that we can invest in. So with that being said, you have to come in contact with like-minded individuals and individuals with the same goal on a regular basis. Iron can't sharpen iron if you guys are not in the room together, right? So you have to be purposeful and intentional about it. And sometimes you have to add value before you get paid. For this particular group, one of the things, and it's become a business service now, but one of the things I did was that I found the draft of our bylaws. I found the draft of our partnership agreement, our investor agreement. I set up the meeting and conducted the meeting where each week we were going through line by line of, no, that doesn't apply to us. Yes, this does apply to us. And I didn't get paid for that time in terms of submitting an invoice, but still the impact that we'll have, and we're working out the details for our first deal. It's because I did the work. And so sometimes it's going to be immediately, and sometimes when you're planting seeds, they'll come back ways you had no idea that they were going to come back.
Yeah, sometimes it's about that sweat equity. You got to put that
Right.
sweat equity in and just hope that, at the end it's going to be a rainbow of some sort. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people are going to be watching the replay to this video. They're going to, they're coming from all kinds of different businesses. And so what advice would you give just the average, or not even the average, but the everyday entrepreneur who's just trying to start a general business? Is there any advice or direction that you would give them?
I would give them a couple. One is what I'm currently offering to people is that if you just want if you want a 30-minute conversation to brainstorm with me, it's free. You can come to my website and sign up for a time that's already available. If there's something that needs to be more detailed and you're willing to let me record it like it's a therapist session, I'll do that for free too. But if you're on your own and you're trying to figure it out and you just need that first step, your first step, a lot of times we say it's to identify the passion or what you're passionate about or what you want to do, the goal. If that's not motivating you, sometimes you have to identify the rut. If you don't do what you go after your dream, what will happen? What is that stick that's going to knock you in the back of the head where you don't get off your butt and figure something out? It may take you out, or it may impact your family. And sometimes that is enough motivation, because a lot of times it's not making the perfect first step. It's taking a step. And if you're an entrepreneur and you've been looking, you've probably gotten a lot of advice or read a lot of things about taking that first step in your options. So choose a step. And if you can't choose a step, then if I don't choose this step, what happens? And for me, when I became a full-time entrepreneur, it was, if I don't take this step, then I will forget. I'll look back and I won't be able to see her imprint, her fingerprint on my life. I'll look back and I won't be able to tell how she impacted me. And that was real. And so you have to figure out yours, because what's true is that time is not replenishable. And the more time we waste doing what we didn't really want to do, it's not coming back. It's just going to keep on trucking. Yeah.
So true. And you harped on something in the past several episodes that we had, it's your why. Defining your why before you define your business, because your why is what creates the reason why you're doing what you're trying to do. So I love that.
Right. And sometimes, it's true. Like my little cousin Maya, she started a business during COVID-19. And a lot of the reasons she started, it wasn't because she knew where she was going. It's because she knew where she didn't want to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes your why is something that's appealing to you. Sometimes it's something that's bigger to you and you really want it. And sometimes it's fear-based and you're running from that. And although that can't sustain you forever, and it shouldn't, it could be enough to at least get you out the rut.
Right.
And sometimes that's what we need to do.
Love it.
A whole word right there. So final question and then I want you to drop your social media handles. What is the most important lesson that you've learned in life, period?
In life?
Yeah.
I guess it would be that, and this is going to sound cliche, but it truly is that I am enough. With my flaws, with everything that I get wrong, with my weaknesses, with my overindulgence in carbs when I know I shouldn't, with me hitting snooze too many times when I know I need to get up, with me not showing up as the very best version of myself because I'm too tired. It's enough. It's who I needed to be. One of the things, and has happened a number of times, not because of COVID-19, but because of the racial injustice and unrest and things that are going on. And people are having conversations. And my thing is that I live in a world where it's multiracial, it's multi-generational, multi-socioeconomic levels. I don't need you to agree with me. I need you to show up as the best version of yourself. And by you showing up and me showing up, then iron can sharpen iron. And I can appreciate the fact that how you're showing up is enough. It's who you're supposed to be right then. And by me doing the same, that's the way we become great. That's the way the world becomes better. And it's not going to be smooth and easy, but that's okay. Because even if I get it wrong and I explain the concept and why, and I shouldn't have told you to do, when I did it, I was the very best version of me, and it's enough. And that's all God is calling me to be. That's all I should expect from me. And anybody else that's expecting more than that, then that's on them, and they got to take that up with Jesus.
Period.
I might have to give you the gospel music on that segue. So.
I love it. So what's your Instagram handles? Oh,
my Instagram is Black. No, I didn't. My Instagram is Black Wall Street DFW. My website, and it can be, you can go to blackwallstreetdfw.com or yrdcolumbus.com. On Facebook, my Facebook business page is also Black Wall Street DFW, or you can find my personal page. My personal page is just Dr. Yoko or Yolanda Columbus. And if you find my personal page, most of my posts are public. So even if you don't follow me, you can see my thoughts. What I have coming up that I would like for people to do, if I have shifted my podcast, I do have a podcast that I was doing once a week. And what I'm doing now is I'm recording my sessions, my business development strategy sessions with entrepreneurs. And it's just the listeners will drop in the middle of a conversation. I'll record it and then we'll end it. And it'll just be a one-time session brainstorming. I'll drop ideas, they'll drop knowledge, and then we'll go from there. So if you're interested, you can go to my website and it's listed as a product with zero. It costs $0 if you agree to let me record. So that's it. Nice. I appreciate you guys. I love what you guys are doing and what you stand for and your consistency in getting after it. So I do appreciate you guys.
We appreciate you too.
Time to talk to us.
Awesome.
I didn't mean to cut you off. Sorry.
No, you're fine. Go ahead. Yeah, we appreciate you too. We appreciate all the knowledge that you dropped on here. And it's just been a consistent theme this week of a lot of things that you're saying, as we've just consistently heard it from other people. So it just, as far as like authenticity and going towards your goals and, you know, coming up with different ideas and being consistent, all of those things are continuous themes. So thank you for just affirming what a lot of other entrepreneurs are thinking and feeling right now. And we really appreciate you being on this episode. So that's what I had to say. Mario, you can wrap it up.
Kind of like, piggybacking off of what Jennifer said, you really hit on a lot of topics and facts that a lot of other, people that we've interviewed have said. And just the fact that, you're making it's not always about the money. Sometimes it's about leaving behind a legacy, about leaving behind a fingerprint. Sometimes that in itself is just satisfaction. And that's kind of what we do. It's not about the money. It's about the fact that, interviewing people like you who are able to kind of express and say exactly what it takes to be a business owner. If it changes one person's outlook as far as, okay, I'm now motivated to go and start my business, that's satisfactory in itself. So, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us, and we're looking forward to hopefully see you on CNN and all the other big news stations and stuff. So yeah, we talked to her. Now we got the secretary to get to her. So I appreciate your time.
Awesome.
Thank you guys.
Thank you everybody for tuning in. We'll catch you guys on the next one-on-one session, and have a great day.